Hi, my name is Ariana Pereda, and for my final project, I will be watching A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. So, to start it off, his full name was Charles John Huffam Dickens. He was born February 7th, 1812, in Portsmouth, Hampshire, England, and he died June 9th, 1870, in Gad's Hill, near Chatham, Kent. He was an English novelist and was considered the greatest of the Victorian era. He was a public figure, actively and essentially involved in his world, and a man of confident presence. His work was relatable to both the rich and poor. In his early life, he left Portsmouth as a kid and spent his childhood in Chatham, where he returned to in his fiction as they were his happiest years. He came from a middle class family as his father was a clerk in the Navy Pay Office, which paid well, but because he was incompetent and unprofessional, it led their family to financial ruins in 1824. So Charles had to drop out of school at the age of 12 to work in a factory to support his family, and his father went to prison for debt. And this manual labor created sympathy for the working life and hardships of poverty that he used in his writing, and it's one of the main themes in A Christmas Carol. He had a bitter resentment towards his mother as she wanted him to continue working even after his father was released, and this is probably where his misogyny came from. An improvement in his family fortunes allowed him to go back to school, um, yet he stopped going to school at the age of 15. So after he left school, he got a job as a clerk in a solicitor's office, then a shorthand reporter in the law courts, which gave him knowledge of the legal world, which he often uses in his novels. He finally became a parliament and newspaper reporter like other members of his family, and these years left him with a longing affection for journalism and a despise for the law and parliament. So his first works were in 1833. He wrote stories and descriptive essays to newspapers and magazines, which attracted attention and were reprinted as Sketches by Boz. And Boz was a false name that Charles used to write under. And I believe there's only one other work where he does use a false name. Um, and Sketches by Boz was reprinted in February of 1836. And in that same month, he was invited to provide a comic serial narrative to accompany prints created by a well known artist. And 7 weeks later, the first installment of the Pickwick Papers appeared, and only within a few months, Charles Dickens was the most popular author of the day. Some of his famous works include The Pickwick Papers, Oliver Twist, A Christmas Carol, David Copperfield, Bleak House, and Great Expectations. Some fun facts about him was he was a suitor for Maria Bednall, but she rejected him because the prospects of his family were unsatisfactory. Um, and this rejection influenced him to sharpen his determination to succeed. He was drawn to theater, it was his dream to be an actor, and he almost became a professional actor in 1832, but he didn't. He had 10 kids with his wife, Catherine Dickens. He didn't grow a beard until he was in his 40s. He founded his own charity. He owned a pet raven named Grip, and when that one died, he got another one and named it the same thing. And that was allegedly Edgar Allan Poe's inspiration for his poem, The Raven. And he invented the genre of Christmas books. So, A Christmas Carol originated in the north of England when he traveled to speak at Manchester, um, at an organization for the working people, which at the time was a population that was largely uneducated, powerless, exploited by factory owners, and ignored by everyone else. and his time in Manchester convinced him that he needed to confront the problems of want and ignorance, which he personified as two scary kids in the book. He finished the book in 6 weeks due to financial pressure, and there are now 135 versions of A Christmas Carol. But I can't remember when this was updated. So, and there's a new one on Netflix, so I guess make that 136 versions. So the film version that I decided to watch, because I remember as a kid I didn't like it, and so I was like, okay, I'll give it another try. It's the 2009 Disney version, and it was directed by Robert Zemeckis, excuse me, and he also directed Back to the Future, Forrest Gump, and The Polar Express. The movie stars Jim Carrey as Scrooge, along with all three Christmas ghosts, and I believe it was Robert Zemeckis who said that he believed that all three ghosts should be played by the same actor that will be playing Scrooge, and he believed that only Jim Carrey would be he believed that Jim Carrey would be the only one to pull it off, and he did. I saw an interview where he said that there was a lot of accent plays. There was a lot of accent plays from all the actors, since most of them did play more than one character. So it was kind of that thing of like, how are you gonna distinguish this character from the one I'm already playing? And they all really pulled it off. It also stars Gary Oldman, who plays Sirius Black in the Harry Potter franchise, and Colin Firth, who plays Harry Bright in Mamma Mia. The film was animated through the process of motion capture, which is pretty much when actors like act it all out. And then when it goes into the editing process, they create 3D animation around the actors acting. And that's interesting to me because the ghost of Christmas Past is a spitting image of Jim Carrey in some frames, and it's so funny to me. And it also, like, when if you like squint at Bob Cratchit, which is Gary Oldman's character, it's him. It's literally Gary Oldman, which is so funny to me because they built the animation characters around their facial features. It's also interesting, but also the 3D animation makes the movie so much scarier. It's like terrifying. There's like at the point of the movie where it like all goes like dark, it takes like a dark twist in the movie, and it's horrifying. I was like, no wonder I didn't like this movie as a kid. It probably scared the heck out of me. But yeah, I would say watch it on your own risk if you get scared pretty easily. And the live play that I will be watching, I'll be watching it tomorrow, so I can't like point out differences and similarities about both versions. But it's the version that's going on at the Signet Theater in Old Town, and it's directed by Sean Murray, not the one from Hocus Pocus, but the co-founder of Signet Theater in 2002, and this year he is also playing the character of Scrooge, which is what I'm excited to see. And this show has been running for 8 years now, and I read that it uses original music, creative stagecraft, puppetry, and live sound effects. And the puppetry is interesting because I read that they use puppetry for the character of Tiny Tim. So I'm excited to see how they play with that. But if they're using it for the kids, then that means that they're also using it for the scary personified wants and ignorance. So I'm also kind of scared. Oh, also seeing like how they make their own like horror elements on stage. I'm excited. If you have a chance to go see it, go see it. And thank you. For